can be the most generic, vanilla, nerdy looking dude and still be a god and have like tons of followers and people like following you.
You can just say Shroud. It's okay. You could say his name.
That was not me.
You can say Shroud's name.
What's up, guys? I'm Jay Hairston, and welcome back to Q Up, Team Envy's official podcast, where we take you inside the world of esports and gaming with the people who know it best.
If this is your first time joining us, we release podcast episodes, the audio version every Monday, and the video version on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/teamenvy.
Right on, right on. We have two guests today. I'm so disappointed, Anuj, that your name is not Eric, because I really wanted to introduce you guys as Tim and Eric. Why couldn't you have like a basic name like Justin?
Hey,
Yeah.
people
Or
call
Justin.
me
Yeah.
whatever they want. So if Eric works, that we can roll with that.
Tell our viewers, listeners, who you guys are.
So my name's Tim Krajewski, or Tim K, whatever you want to say it. And we both host a podcast called The Center Ring. It's an esports podcast. You can find it on Twitter at The Center Ring. We post episodes every Monday night, so it's not conflicting with this lovely outlet. You can listen to them both. And then this is Anuj.
Yep, I'm Anuj. I've been with our podcast for about 2 years now, about 150 episodes in. So we just hit like a large milestone here recently for us. But yeah, man, just love talking esports and excited to chat with you guys today.
So you guys are no strangers to the realm of esports.
No.
Clearly.
No.
What are we on, episode, what is this, 5?
I don't know. Six. We're on 6 now.
6. Producer
Hey.
says 6.
It'll stack up before you know it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I remember the last podcast I used to do, we got to, like 250 episodes, something there-ish, too, and that happened so fast.
You guys are killing
It
it.
was crazy. So
250
we'll get there.
250 is a number, man. That's
We'll get
that's
there.
a good one.
It's a long time. So
So this one will be a little different bit of pacing because you guys aren't players. You guys are podcast
That's right.
folk like us. Yeah.
Those who can't play, coach, and those who can't host.
coach,
Host. So that's why we're doing a podcast.
or coast.
Right on.
A little bit of both.
So
Speak
we
for
all
yourselves. I consider myself a pro at most of the games I play. I just choose not to sign with an org.
Yeah.
So
Of course, you consider yourself a pro. Nobody else.
no, yeah,
does.
nobody else.
That's
Nobody
how
else
it
that I
goes.
know.
You're like the Chance the Rapper of gaming. You just refuse to sign a contract.
I'm not signing a I'm not taking any money on this.
Just gonna stay independent. I like that.
And I've definitely played enough comp games in online to know that everybody I'm playing with is a pro except for me because they're never wrong. They're always the best. And it's always my fault.
That's why they're plat.
It's always the guy that's terrible that wants to do the shot calling.
Oh,
You
yeah.
notice that? He's the most vocal. He's like, oh, we need to do this and this. And it's like, bro, you're not playing well. Why would we follow you?
This
We're
is not
following you
boding
into
well for me.
oblivion
I
right
do
now.
our IGLing for us in CS, so this is hurting the confidence right now with you saying that.
I will say my claim to fame is that way back in the day, I was considered a semi-pro in Rainbow Six.
Tell them about it
I tell them every episode. But
every episode.
we earned enough points in the MLG Pro circuit to be considered semi-pro.
Not bad.
Not really much to go off of, considering there was like 8 teams that played Rainbow Six back in the day.
Hey.
But I don't bring that
Top
up.
10. Top
yeah,
10, baby.
I don't bring that up when I
Do
tell
you put it on
people.
your Tinder profile though? That's
Absolutely.
the real test. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that
I tell everyone.
hooks them in.
Yep. I tell everyone about it. That's what got me my wife. She was like, wow, you were a pro in Rainbow Six Vegas? I was like, yeah, well,
So you guys have had Hastro on the podcast before.
yeah, we have.
How'd that go?
Really good. We've had him on twice. The first time was actually probably this time last year. It was right after stage 1 of Overwatch League, the first season. And he didn't know we were live on air because I work with the Ticket, which is a local radio station here in Dallas, for those who don't know. And it's sports radio. It's all just regular, your traditional sports. And he was live on air, had no idea he was live on air. And then afterwards was like, great, so when is that going to go live? And we were like, kind of looked around and we're like, that was on air, Mike. And he was like, oh, well, great.
We thought he must have thought we were really professional with like commercial segments in there and like
Like
a full audio
editing
crew and all that. I mean, he must have thought we were big
transitions.
time.
Yeah.
It's probably how we got on here.
One of the things I love about your guys' podcast is you start each and every episode with a snippet of Pro Leader, who's like this DJ. How would you describe Pro Leader? He takes like 60s swing music, I guess. I don't know.
First off, I'm impressed that you knew
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Pro Leader.
Okay.
Shout out to Pro Leader.
Yes, a lot of people don't know.
because he's clearly watching this.
Yes.
And listening.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah, he takes like the swing music and then kind of puts a more modern beat behind it. But best of all, it's all copyright free.
Really,
So
I did not know that.
that's why we use it, because I don't have to worry about, because we used to use like normal music and then it would get flagged, and some artists would just take down the whole episode because you played 10 seconds of their intro song. Or
brutal.
So I was like, no, I can't do this, and I just love Pro Leader sound and everything like that. So that's what we went with.
It's a great way to get it going. Our jingle's cool as well. Mike, who does ours? What's the guy's name?
Kory McMaster.
Kory McMaster. Check that dude out. If you like the little jingle at the beginning.
Was that made specifically for you
yeah,
guys?
it's custom
Because
made,
I noticed
baby.
I noticed
Custom
it was
made.
on the podcast feed, and I was like, oh, I do like this.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He used to do music for Overwatch and Blizzard.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Kory worked on some Overwatch stuff.
With a name like that, how could you not be successful?
For real.
You know?
He's a McMaster, so
Yeah.
whatever he does.
Like, that's just awesome.
I'm sorry for that one.
Oh man, let's talk some esports, man. What do you guys? What's
Let's.
going on? What are you guys watching right now?
Well, obviously with CWL Fort Worth.
Yes,
That just wrapped up. That was in our own backyard, so I obviously watched that. I'm huge into Overwatch, so I watch every Overwatch League. Right now, I'm 100% in nostalgia mode, watching old Halo matches with the PC announcement and everything. I've been watching old, MLG 08 games and things like that, and
That's a deep hole.
It's-
Deep hole on YouTube.
it is crazy to see how far esports has come, especially just with quality, right? Like
Yeah.
back then, I don't know how I watched them because they're in like 420p.
Oh, and all the montages.
It is a potato.
all the shooter montages that had
Breaking
like the
Benjamin
same,
in the
yes,
background.
the same like Linkin Park Breaking Benjamin song. Drowning in my skin.
All of them.
Every single one. Yeah.
So is that the equivalent, I guess, of watching like ESPN Classics from traditional
Yeah.
sports?
Ooh.
Which story about ESPN Classics. I have a severe dislike for ESPN Classics because as a kid we used to have this channel called the International Channel, and that's where I would watch like Korean music videos and Dragon Ball Z in Japanese and like old like kung fu flicks. And then one day
This
it was
sounds great.
replaced. It was awesome, and it was replaced with ESPN Classics one day, and I
So you're just
absolutely hated it, and I was so upset because that was before the internet was like a thing, and I couldn't like watch all that
Right.
stuff anywhere else. So it
Were
took
you
my
just
one
trained to
way.
keep watching that show though? Did you actually watch, or did you tune out? Did you change the channel?
What, ESPN Classics?
Yeah.
Oh, I completely turned that off.
Okay.
No, thank you. I want my Korean music videos in Dragon Ball Z.
Because for me it was like Nickelodeon, but then at one point it would turn to Nick at Night. But I was so trained to stay on that channell 35. I'll never forget it. I was like 6 years old.
Dude, Nick and Night was something else.
I just
dude.
kept watching Nick at Night,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
was watching all like I Love Lucy and like shows I had
Yeah.
no business
Yeah.
watching. At that
Happy
age.
Days.
But it's like
Welcome
you just
Back, Kotter.
You just become
I liked it a
trained. Yeah.
It's weird that like as 10-year-olds, I did the same thing. I watched I Love Lucy, and it's like what.
Why would you
Looking
ever-
back at
yeah.
it now, it's like, wait, why was I watching that like 10, 11 years old? Like I was watching I Love Lucy every night.
Some of the weirdest shows I probably watched as a kid. I watched a lot of Baywatch. I guess not that weird when you think about it. But
I have so many follow-up questions now. We could stop there.
but yeah, like I watched like MASH and I Love Lucy.
I remember
and
that.
The Andy Griffith
Cheers.
Show. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
like-
Oh yeah.
As a kid, my son who's 14 now like wouldn't watch would not have the patience to even entertain the thought.
Frasier. You guys remember Frasier?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it came on after The Simpsons on Fox.
That's why
I watch more cartoons now than I probably did as a child. Like, as a child, it was like Tom and Jerry, and then a bunch of these random oldies, and then
That's
just
so
flipped.
weird.
Now we watch esports montages.
all right.
Watch a lot of esports.
lot of
Man, we had a
esports.
tough week though.
We did.
Both
There's a
of our
silver
teams-
lining. There's a little silver lining from this weekend.
There was a little silver lining. So if you didn't watch, the Dallas Fuel were eliminated from playoff contention by the Boston Uprising. It was a tough game, man. They started out 2-0, going to halftime, and I feel like they just fell asleep. Like I don't really know what happened. I wish I was like a fly on the wall in the dugout because I would have been Ric Flair slapping people's chest, like wake up, man, like stay hype. Our Call of Duty team took the big L as well, but the silver lining, as you said, was that one Optic did not make it very far either, and the Outlaws, who were kind of cheering for, you almost had to be an Outlaws fan because there was this weird scenario where if the stars aligned and they had like what was it? They had to win like 3-2 or something ridiculous,
3-2.
something
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah.
They had to win. There was a chance we could still get in. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So they're out and we're out, and yeah.
Yeah, but NV COD won against Optic.
Yeah.
So
we did take
And that's
down,
despite throwing the whole tournament.
apparently,
Like, so that's pretty good. I mean, when you're winning matches and throwing them at the same time,
That's
it's
amazing.
pretty good.
Man, that's
Shout
kind of
out.
in line with what I wanted to talk about today, which is just the misuse of language in esports. Throwing, trolling, like all these words that become like just casual conversation in the esports scene have completely like flipped meaning on what they were intentionally designed to express. So, for instance, let's take throwing. We just talked about throwing. That I want to say it came from boxing. I can't think of anything earlier than traditional boxing.
Throwing
Like
the match?
when somebody would throw a match, they
Right.
were literally taking a dive, falling down to make money on the side. Mobsters, what have you. Now it becomes like if you make a bad play in the clutch, you're throwing. Like that's kind of just like a thing that's thrown
or
around
if
so
you're-
casually.
If you're Jay and you're picking Bastion,
Throwing immediately. No, that's trolling now. That's
That's
trolling.
trolling.
Another
That's
good
trolling,
word.
yeah.
excuse me, I'm
Trolling.
getting it mixed up.
Trolling used to mean like you're doing something clever, something cheeky to kind of like, piss people off or get under somebody's skin, but there was like thought to it, and it was actually something that was kind of clever, and you're like, what a jerk. Now it's like you don't play anything that's meta. If you play something that's not meta, you're trolling, and now you're going to get reported by 7 people.
But that's like the Twitter world for you, right? Like that 140 characters, like get something out without saying much substance really to generally back up your words, right?
Is that what it is?
I feel like it. I mean, like throwing is just an easy way, or trolling especially, right? Like, oh, you're trolling. Well, maybe he just made a bad play. He's not really trying to throw the match or troll the game, but you see it almost in any game you jump into right away. You're not even really given the chance to learn a lot of these games. It's
Right.
kind of a day one, you're going to get called out if you do something wrong type thing.
I think a part of it too. I mean, in language, words change meaning and everything just naturally, right? But I do think, as far as like the lingo goes in gaming, it's rough because it's kind of whoever declares someone else salty first, you're forever the salty one, right? There's no way I'm the one who's salty or mad or upset. It's clearly you because I declared it first. That's just the natural law of gaming.
First.
Right. And it's like, or try hard, right? Heaven forbid if I just want to win, right? I'm just playing the game normal. It's not like I'm obviously I'm not pro at the game, but I do want to win at it. But because of that, I'm salty if I ask you to switch off Bastion, or I'm salty or try hard if I try doing a call out. That's where
You die 2 times in a row, you're feeding.
Yep, feeding instantly. The one that just irks me is no one seems to really understand what a C9 is. Like no,
That's a good one.
No, everyone just thinks if you lose, C9 in the chat, and it's like, well, no, we all died on the point. Like that's not a C9. Like that's not what it is. But everyone just
They just take it and run with it.
So for those of you watching who don't know what a C9 is, surprised you don't at this point in life, but a C9 stands for Cloud9, a particular play where they abandoned the point, the objective, and lost the point.
Yeah, so it's
basically,
typically when you're on offense in Overwatch, you have the payload, and you have to, run with the payload. They all got off of it. In fact, Shanghai did this against the Fuel a couple weeks ago.
Shang9.
Shang9.
Yeah, Shanghai. There you go. Love it. And so you leave the payload, and the game's over because you were in overtime or whatnot. And everyone just kind of has that awkward moment where they're like, okay, who are we going to blame before, I got to blame someone before someone blames me. It's Justin's fault. It was Justin's fault. He was the one who's supposed to watch it. And everyone just thinks, though, if you lose, it's now a C9.
So they say there's no bad publicity. Is that bad publicity?
To be known for a bad play that became a meme and forever referenced as?
Think about how many people are searching that, though. Because Twitch chat, like, they see it. Kids want to, like, oh, where'd that meme come from? So they're searching, and they're going to find Cloud9.
Do you...
Is it worth it, though?
Here's the flip side of that. How many of those people do you think are actually searching it? Or they're just saying it and repeating it, and then it's like a game of telephone?
That's
Like
what I
Twitch
think.
Twitch
chat,
right?
Yeah.
basically Twitch chat. Somebody throws out something and it's
Yeah.
copied and pasted all the way down for
and
20
they have
minutes.
no idea what it
No,
means.
no
I
clue.
talk to kids, and like they'll say something like, "Do you even know what that that word means? And they're like, no, I just heard somebody
clue.
use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like curse words. I'm like, do you know what
Do you know what you
the
just said?
F word actually means? You just said it. And he's just like, oh, I'm just like upset. I'm like, no, it means 30,000 different things also. But like, particularly like, it's a sexual word that, that it means this. Is that what you want to be saying right now? And he's like, oh, I didn't know that's what I was saying. I'm like, you know the words you're saying.
You're giving people a lot of credit for putting that much thought into what they're saying in gaming. Generally, it's like the first thing that comes into your head, especially if it's like open mic or something. It's usually pretty raw.
I would love to have like. I hold the opinion that my dad invented Urban Dictionary back in like the 90s. Okay, bear with me. And we were on the couch. It was like, do you remember Blackstreet? There was a rap group called Blackstreet. They had a famous song called No Diggity.
Oh yeah.
And the chorus goes, I like the way you work it. No diggity. I got to bag it up.
Yep.
And like the average person wouldn't know what the hell they're talking about. And my dad was like, yo, like there should be a thing where like Urban Dictionary where they basically tell you like that means your booty looks good. Like let's take a picture of it or whatever the rap, whatever they were referring to.
We're still trying to figure it out now.
The 90s were wild, all right? No, but yeah, I would love that for esports and especially all the Twitch emotes because there's like these people and characters and PogChamp and all these.
I don't
different
even know
things.
I'm half of them.
Like. Yeah, like just to know like where they actually came
Yeah.
from. Like
Where they
some of them I
originate.
care to know if I'm using them because
Yeah.
and I'm like the worst offender. Like it's like mob mentality. You just start doing it. We're like making fun of Twitch chat right now, but I do the same thing. Like I now say Pog, and I told my girlfriend I'm not using that in casual conversation. Now I say it all the time. So I'm a hypocrite right now. But it's very interesting. I talked to her about it's almost like we've come full circle with language. So we started with hieroglyphics, simple images on the wall. And then we moved to Shakespeare. So you have this beautiful language and poetry. And now we're going back to freaking emojis and emotes. And
The new hieroglyphic is like
Pog.
DAC.
Pog. So what do we do? What do we do with Twitch chat? Nobody's having a conversation in Twitch chat.
Do y'all like open Twitch chat when you're watching a stream by chance?
Yeah.
You have it
do.
open?
Do you? See, that's
the first
thing
mistake.
I do is, okay, close Twitch chat and we're good. We are good. I can now enjoy this stream.
But you've got to realize on our end, we have to understand the context of the community and knowing what
true.
makes them excited and seeing what they're talking about and then being able to leverage that for our own social media and all that stuff. So we have to be relevant and understand the memes.
Yeah.
And so thank God there is knowyourmeme.com
Yeah.
and all that because
Great resource.
there is a lot of stuff that I have to take some time to figure out, and that saves me a lot of time.
Do you feel like you're aging out?
I'm gone.
It's already done.
Yeah.
It already happened.
That was probably like a good 5 years ago at this point in life. Now.
What about you
I don't
guys?
know.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm only 28, and so I feel like I should still understand half the references. But at the same time, I feel like, I mean, if you just miss one tournament or something and something big happens there, you can miss a good meme, a creation of a meme or an inside joke or something that goes on. And it's I'm a visitor to Know Your Meme.
Yeah.
I go there.
I didn't
quite
realize
often.
this was an educational show. I'm writing that down. I'm so behind on like half the words that are said in Twitch chat or just on the YouTube comments that you read. Man, I feel lost sometimes. I do feel like a 33-year-old. I am 33.
I mean, it's not even creative at this point. If somebody dies when they're not supposed to die in the game, what is the chat going to spam?
When somebody dies, man, shoot. I guess it
F's
depends.
in the chat.
F's in the
Well, I guess
chat.
it
Pay your
depends on what
respects.
the situation is, I feel like. Because if it's somebody in
Bot.
Overwatch dying,
Does it though?
Yeah, the bot is a good one
The
too.
bot's
Everyone
pretty
says
common, I
bot
feel
if it
like.
was something bad in Counter-Strike, that's popular.
So I watched what was Trump's lawyer? The dude who
Cohen?
was just on Cohen.
Yeah.
They broadcast. I think it was the Washington Post broadcasted it on Twitch. So you have gamers watching this very political hearing and how that gets heated and people get
Oh, yeah.
loud, and they're using the Twitch references.
They're going
to
on
watch
there.
this, and they're like, "Oh, F's in the chat, rip, all these different
So
things."
now we're seeing it evolve from
It's
out
evolving.
of gaming. It's like
Memes are
leaving gaming into the political or real life world.
do you
so
guys
weird.
remember when Twitch was purely gaming and you weren't allowed to stream anything that wasn't gaming?
Yeah.
Like,
Do, any
that
of you,
was,
do we
was
miss
when-
that?
that was a real
I
thing.
kind of miss that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I remember it was Justin TV right before
Yeah.
Twitch.
Before
Yeah.
Twitch.
And then
Yeah.
when Justin TV, then when they decided to shut that down, they kind of said, okay, well,
everything
we
up,
need a
yeah.
home for all these people. Let's move it over to Twitch. And
Yeah, I remember when we started my last podcast that I worked on was an anime podcast, and that was when at the beginning of that Twitch was still pretty much all gaming, and they didn't have the IRL stuff or anything yet, and so because we had a relationship with Twitch, we were able to like get placement for this anime podcast, which they didn't do, like they wouldn't allow before, and so that was like a really big deal for us because we got to be one of the first ones to like do non-gaming things.
Yeah.
And then now it's like you can do whatever the hell you want. I mean, within reason, obviously.
Have you like been watching any of this ASMR stuff? Anybody? Any takers here?
yeah, maybe you guys should do that.
It's so there's an audience out there.
Mike is over there.
Our producer's losing it right now.
That is not for me. That is not my business.
I'm still trying to find
creepy.
the person that it's for. Honestly, I would like to meet the person that it's
market,
for.
man. I tell my dad, he goes on these long like rants, and I'm like, there is a audience out there for like old black man like rants, like from like 'cause he grew up like through some hard times, man. He experienced like real racism and things like this. Like there's an audience out there. Just get on Twitch, turn on the camera, and start talking, man. Somebody's gonna listen. You
Oh
just
yeah,
never
there's
know what's gonna
somebody
pop
out
off.
there for everything or for
Yeah.
everyone.
I think I have a solution for Twitch chat though, so you guys got to tell me if I'm on the right page. I'm trying to do this for like everyone. This is like a humanitarian type thing because there's not any conversation going on in Twitch chat right now, unless you're like a smaller streamer.
Right.
I could see the value there, but I think there should be almost like grouped channels. So if you had like a drop down tab, at the top of the chat where it was like chat 1 through like chat 10, that would kind of divvy up.
I think they
The
already
audience a
have
little bit?
something like that. I
Can
think
you?
you can make groups in the chat and
for like big productions.
and break it down. Because I know, like with Overwatch League, if you have the all access pass,
Yeah.
you have access to their
Oh, the
private
little
group
select
chat,
channel, yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is a lot
I've done
better.
that.
You'll have,
Yeah.
you can actually kind of follow a narrative there.
I think that should be like standard though, like because it's too much. It's just rolling chat. It looks like the Matrix. Like nobody's really having a conversation. It's just like whatever poppin' copy pasta. You're like, oh, that's funny. I'm gonna copy that, and now everybody's spamming that.
Like if you did it maybe towards like, this one is for like competitive gameplay in the sense of people talking about strategic analysis or
so here's the thing: are people actually going to
no,
follow anyone?
not at all.
Hell,
Not
no.
at all.
when you say who,
The fans.
norm-
They're
like
just going to hop in
anyone.
whatever chat and then just troll that one. That's real trolling now. Like that's like they're going to go in and try to do something dumb.
is it more apparent though? It's not like a waterfall where you can't see what's going on. It's like okay, people are having a conversation, and then this one dude just keeps posting. This
You're gonna have to have mods that keep an eye on it. The issue is no one likes to be modded, right? I mean, look at what Blizzard is doing with Overwatch League, and even then, it's pretty loose in there. But people had an outrage when they tried to control the chat. And what do you mean I have to link my Blizzard account to chat and all that? And people like to have Twitch
Yeah.
chat being their thing. And
I don't know if you could really save Twitch chat at this point in life. I think that's just the platform, and I think that's almost the expectation. I mean, you have your subs only chat, which is good, especially if you're trying to build a community and you want people because always the big difference between quality over quantity is money. If someone's actually having to pay for something, there's a much higher potential there'll be quality interactions,
Yeah.
right?
right.
But public chat, like, rip.
There's probably not much you can do to save
Yeah.
public chat at this point.
So rip F's in the
Yeah,
F's in
F's in the
Twitch
chat
for
for
Twitch
us. Yeah,
chat.
for
Yeah,
sure.
for Twitch chat. But,
Oh,
I think
man.
that as long as you don't cross a line or anything, it is pretty entertaining, right? Because that is where a lot of the memes and things are born.
And that is an interesting way to think of it, too. So, like, for example, on my personal or public Facebook, whatever, I would add everybody that sent me a friend request when I worked in a particular industry. So I'd get all these fans of that industry. And so based on the algorithms and things, whatever they would be talking about would have to be popular enough for me to see it because of an algorithm, right? And so it's similar like to Twitch chat. If you can actually see it and read it, it's being repeated so much that it's something that's
Relevant
popular.
in that moment.
So you're like it's like a sampling of what people are interested in because you have so many people, and if everyone's hitting F for pay your respects thing, then you're like, okay, that's like a
It's
prominent
like a hive,
thing.
though. It's like I feel like it's like beehive mentality or like mob mentality, where whatever somebody thinks is cool, everyone else is just gonna like follow that.
But
and they may not really like.
Isn't that social media in general?
really
And so
is.
if you're looking at it from a perspective of trying to understand an audience, then I think it is applicable to like research, rather than you're not gonna have quality engagement, but it's like a
Right.
litmus test for like what things are popping.
One thing you can get out of Twitch chat at least is if you're watching something on mute and a big play happens and you didn't happen to catch it, but you look at the chat and they're going nuts, you know to
pop face.
quickly hit clip right there and see what you just missed. So you do get an idea of at least what's going on if it's if somebody made something terrible happen or made a clutch play or whatever. You can kind of use Twitch chat to navigate what just happened if you're not actually listening.
I think you just have to have different expectations for what you're trying to accomplish. And if you're trying to have good quality conversation, Twitch chat's just not
It's
for
just
you.
not the
No.
place for it.
Yeah.
That's where you go find a Discord and talking, in the specific, like if you want to talk about the Fuel, join the Dallas Fuel Discord and have a conversation there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a plug. And then
Appreciate that.
go to Twitch chat for the memes and all that.
All right, so here's a question. What if there's a way, because if you're using your mobile phone, you can't do both. If you only have your phone, you can't do Discord and watch Twitch chat right now. If there's a way that Discord can create some sort of overlay when you're watching on Twitch, so you can have a different
Chat
box,
Hmm.
that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
You can't do that currently.
Now we got to pitch
Just
some
get two
deals
phones.
after this. We got to pitch a couple ideas out there. I like that one. That would be a good one.
And community-wise on Twitch, Marcus, DJ Wheat, that's what he's doing, so got you.
Shut up.
Shout out.
We do that with our Discord in that sense, though. If I'm on my computer, I'll have my Discord up, chatting with these guys about the game if we're not all watching it together, and then just viewing Twitch for what it is.
Do you prefer, when you're doing a live watch, a voice chat to talk or text, like in Discord?
We've done it both ways. We've especially for like for example at the Boston Major, we were all in voice chat, and that was amazing.
That was a lot
'Cause
of fun.
People were just going nuts over Cloud9 and at the NA Major and everything there. So I think I'd prefer voice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the chat is nice just because it's just you watching, but the voice, it's almost like we were at a watching party, right? Everyone just gets so hyped up rather than like, whoa, that was a crazy play. Let me type that real quick. Okay, crazy. All right.
Pog.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's where all these come in, right?
Yep.
You can throw the F out there, the VAC real quick instead of
Yep.
having
And
the,
everyone knows what it means.
It's the fast reaction.
I would
it's
do
text
voice if I'm
reaction,
like
yeah.
with a group of friends. I wouldn't want voice if I'm in a party with like 25
Yeah,
people,
it's
30
the
people
size
in there.
is really important.
Yeah, like if I'm with a smaller group and we're all watching the same thing, sure. Otherwise, let me chat it out at that point.
So watching these games, I mean, obviously when you have something like Overwatch League and it's a full broadcast and it's publicized, it's front page, and you see like 190,000 people in there, you're obviously not going to get good interaction. But if it's a smaller streamer or whatever, and there's like 100 people watching, and literally only like 4 of those people are probably chatting it up,
Yeah.
like legitimately. But for games, do you think? I think to your topic, Anuj, do those small games matter, or does it have to be like the number one game for it to really be popping on Twitch?
No, I mean, I think the small games. I feel like with the smaller games, you get kind of a closer group in that sense when you are communicating. You don't run into this issue as much with the smaller games, right? With the smaller games, you tend to have people that are truly dedicated, like the RuneScape crowd, for example, right? Like those guys are very focused and really more particular in their conversation versus what you get in the larger scale games. The large scale games, there's just no fixing that, I don't think. Like it's just
The speedrun community is another good example. of
yeah,
that.
yeah, like exactly.
Yeah.
Like those are smaller communities. Like the fighting, FGC for the most part is still, in the scale of things considered
Right.
a smaller community. I feel like they would probably have a little bit more discussion, in their chat side. You're not going to really ever see that, I think, with a game that has 50 million players like Apex Legends. Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to fix a streamer that has 100,000 viewers on there like Shroud or something and try to have a purposeful conversation with them? You really wouldn't.
So do you think that for a game to be successful, it has to have high viewership on Twitch, though? Like, can a new game, let's say Anthem came out, and it's getting, 50,000 people watching, but then you've got Apex with 50 million people or whatever. Like, does that mean Anthem's not a success?
No, I mean, I don't. I mean, I think Apex is unique, right? Like the 50 million number. Apex and Fortnite are kind of at this whole nother level in terms of what we've seen over the past, even 5 years in gaming. We really haven't had one kind of elevate themselves that much higher. With a game like, Anthem is kind of the perfect one. I think just the social media aspect in terms of streaming, you do need viewership to help build your base or your foundation. Look at Apex, didn't pay any money for marketing, right? What do? They paid the streamers to go out there and publicize it. And so I don't know if that's necessarily
Brilliant
organic growth, though, right? Like you have the top streamers from every game, playing your game for that day. You're going to have 400,000 people watching at that point in time. Where a smaller game that's not advertising that way, I think if you just make a quality game at the end of the day, people will come. Look at Rainbow Six Siege, right? That game doesn't have the highest viewership numbers. Started off a little rough when it launched, right? Like it didn't gain the traction, the popularity that you would generally expect from a Tom Clancy game. But 4 years later down the road, these guys have continued to build on this game, and I think it's bigger now than it's ever been, right? You look at like the Paris finals that just happened not too long ago, like. It was talked about, I felt like, a lot more now in Season 4 than it was in Season 1. So I think the most important part is just building a good game and making that the priority versus tailoring a game to get Twitch streamers to come and play. Because that's not where your money is going to ultimately come from is, a big streamer playing the game. You need the people to buy the loot crates or whatever type of game you're pushing. But ultimately, having a good game is going to make itself work.
Content is king.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think you also have games too, like if you want to just keep it like in an esports realm. Rainbow Six, like Anuj mentioned, is a rare one, right? Typically, games nowadays have a shelf life of what, maybe a year before where if like, oh well, this isn't the most popular game on Twitch. It's talk about terminology. It's dead game. Dead game. Like oh, this isn't top 5 on Twitch. It's a dead game. I'm not going to play it. But Rainbow, I mean. Oddly enough, has gotten more popular. Paladins is another one. You look at that player base, and it kind of blows my mind just because you never think about it. It's never on top on Twitch or anything like that, and yet it's got a pro league, right?
World champion,
world champs over here,
right here, right?
Team,
so and it's just crazy to think. But again, it's not top on Twitch. It's whatever, and so people might think that this game sucks because a top streamer isn't playing it, which I guess, for as amazing Twitch and social media and everything is nowadays, that is a negative side behind it, is that if you're not a top game on Twitch, you have that, the perspective is that your game's dead or it's not good. And in reality, there is still a strong player base behind it. It's just, not a top 5 on Twitch.
I see a correlation to music. So you think about like, the top 50 hits or even the top 10 hits that are played on the radio over and over and over. Those are your Fortnites. Those are your Apexes.
Yeah.
And then you have people who refuse to listen to mainstream music. They're not listening to anything that's being played on the radio. They have these little niche bands, these little grunge, like
underground rappers,
those kind of things that have a cult following, like Tech Nine. I don't know if you guys listen to Tech Nine. But yeah, that's a good kind of comparison.
You kind of see that correlation even with social media, though, right? Because on social media, it's like if you don't have X number of followers, are you legitimate, right? Like, is somebody going to pay attention to what you're saying if you have 150 followers versus 150,000 followers, right?
Gotta have that check.
Yeah, I mean, I see you you got halfway there on yours. You got the little white part. It just the check is coming soon. I see it coming soon.
Fake it till you make it.
No, but really, like, I mean, it doesn't mean like the guy with 150 followers doesn't know what he's talking about versus somebody that has 1 million. So you kind of see that same correlation there, but with the esports side of it for games and popularity, I think too many companies just focus on trying to make the next big esport, right, versus trying to make the next good game, and that's where the focus kind of gets derailed. You look at Battalion, a lot of these guys have come out with, hey, we're going to be an esports-centric focus here. Let's make it as big as we can and sell out arenas. But really, again, it comes down to making a good, polished game. You look at Counter-Strike. I mean, Counter-Strike is probably the most organic game in the sense of growth, being back from 99 to now. People look at CSGO in the last 5 years, but really that game's been building its base for 20 years. Overwatch, kind of the same thing. It's not like they launched Overwatch and then Overwatch League came out a month later, right? They let the game progress, they let the meta develop, they made their updates and their changes, and then it took like 2.5 years, which a lot of people were upset about, to get Overwatch League started. But really in their mind it was, let's do it right the first time, rather than, it's like really hard to go in reverse, right? You cannot fail often in esports in a game and like come back to life. And that's why Siege is one of those ones that really blows my mind, because they did have such a tough start and they managed to kind of rebound. But you don't see that story too often. You really got to be good off the bat, and that's what people tend to not focus on is, hey, let's push this, make it a big esport game, and then figure out how to fix our game on the back end. And PUBG, I think, is kind of right there, right? Like PUBG is, you play the game and it's like, man, I want this to be good. Like I want this to be a good game.
Right.
But I feel like they're so focused on like pushing out a good esport product that they haven't ever fixed the optimization or all the issues that you consistently run into, where that's one that you saw at the peak of, Twitch was, I say the peak of Twitch, their era. They were Twitch kings at that point, how quickly they've fallen off. So.
Right.
I think too, though, from Anuj's point of like games being too focused on esports, you can see how much esports has affected game development and marketing and everything. Because nowadays a game comes out, I mean, first of all, like look at Call of Duty. They've completely dropped single player, right? And that's huge because Call of Duty for the longest time, I mean, they got big actors doing their single player, voices and acting and everything there, and they completely abandoned it to focus on multiplayer and esports. And nowadays, when a game comes out, before it was like, oh yeah, we also have multiplayer. They don't even call it multiplayer anymore. It's, oh yeah, we have a competitive mode because we're super competitive now. So it is funny how you've seen developers and games morph into, they really try to sell people on, yes, we have a competitive mode, we have a competitive scene, and you can go pro in this game, regardless of if you actually can or not.
Right. So do you think Fortnite is helping or hurting esports in that sense? Because they're making it accessible to a younger audience that may not be as familiar with traditional esports. And they're kind of passing it off as esports, but you never know who's going to get into these skirmishes. We never know if our guys are going to go. Like, we usually find out like a couple weeks prior, maybe. But it's like you have influencers, and you have like little Timmy who made a cooking video. And Bobby over here made like a sing-song video,
right.
And so he's in. And like,
it's a very good question. We've actually talked about that same topic on our podcast. Is Fortnite an esport, or is it just a popular game with a lot of money behind it, and they give you money for whatever you want to define as an esport? I don't think it really matters for the sake of a conversation. Are you a pro gamer, whatever, it's all the same. I think ultimately at the end, yes, what Fortnite has brought to the table, I think it's legitimized a lot of gaming to a lot of people who might have thought you can't make money doing this, you can't make a living doing this. Now, and also because I don't see a shift in the esports scene changing because of it, right? Like Counter-Strike isn't changing their format to be like a skirmish or anything where they're like, oh, any team could get in here and play or anything like that. If you saw shifting like that in the industry, I would say, yeah, it's definitely hurting it. But the fact that whole business model is kind of only sticking around Fortnite, now it definitely sucks for these teams that, when it blew up, they got all these players and everything, and then it's just kind of like, oh, you mean like anyone can keep doing this? Like we're not getting any special treatment or anything? Right. It definitely sucks as far as that. The thing is Fortnite is so internally structured with Epic and the amount of money that they have. I guess they don't really need the esports scene to keep it going, unlike some of the other games out there.
But I think it has helped the scene in general, because now you've gotten a lot of people that had no idea really about the competitive nature in gaming other than just playing a typical multiplayer game. Now you see these winter skirmishes, fall skirmishes pop up, and it's like, oh, I have a chance to enter to win $1 million. Let me get my two or three buddies and like see what we can do, right? And I have a lot of friends that really don't know much about esports, but they play games. And now when they're playing Fortnite, it's all about racking up the points when the skirmishes go live, right? And getting more involved. They stay more in tune, with the game that way. So, I mean, I think it has like helped as a whole. It's also brought in so many different people to esports, right? In the sense that people that just played games casually, especially a lot of console players that maybe didn't, because for console, it's really just COD, and that's kind of it from an esports standpoint. But it's brought in a lot of people on the console side that maybe had no interest in Call of Duty, but now with Fortnite, they've seen it kind of revolutionize gaming with, adding the media in the sense of, the marshmallow events and all these things that they do to kind of hype it up. It's brought in a lot of people from the outside that didn't know much about esports before.
So would you say it's bridging the gap between maybe traditional sports fans and esports fans?
I don't think we need to bridge the gap, Like I know a lot of people want to do that, and we talk about it like how can we bridge this gap between esports and traditional sports? And you don't even have that in traditional sports. Like I can't go make a guy that loves football, loves soccer all of a sudden like, hey, you love football, why don't you like basketball as much? True. Like what's wrong with you? You don't like sports? So it's like bridging the gap is just to, when I say it at least, I'm talking more in the sense of legitimizing esports, right? Like, hey, it's here and it's not going anywhere. You don't have to like it. I don't need everybody to love esports. We have enough fans as is, right? Well, welcome more if y'all want to come and join, but we have our own party going on over here, and I think that's like that for any sport. Why do you don't have to like all sports, so why do people have to love esports all of a sudden? The gap just needs to be bridged in the sense of how can we legitimize it? If it's on TV, hopefully it's not getting pooped on the whole time from viewership. We host the show on the radio, and you should see half of the Twitter comments that come in.
Oh, they're
that's
so
on
nice.
A traditional sports radio station that's the largest here in DFW, and the second we go live, I mean, it starts trickling in. And there's positives in there too, like, hey, we love that you're doing this, but there's also a lot of, why the hell are y'all on the radio talking about video games right now?
So here's where I see one of the sources of legitimization coming from is in schools. We're bred to believe that sports is an integral part of our education and upbringing, because every school you go to has sports teams.
Yeah.
And it's already part of your education, therefore it's legitimized that you can go down this path, right? The thing that you've been told as a kid growing up in school is that video games are bad for you and bad for school.
Yeah.
As long as we've been around, as long as they've been in existence. Once the schools flip that and embrace video games, I think, and create actual programs and curriculum around it, which colleges are doing. Very few elementary schools are doing.
I've seen some high schools even start a esports club, right? I mean, there's no official school district sanction, but still, even that's huge. Looking back from back when I was in school, gaming in general has always taken a leap, right? I think at first you had to legitimize gaming so you didn't look like a nerd, right? And we've trumped that. I mean, look how cool all of us are.
So cool.
So super cool.
So damn cool.
And now it's okay. It's cool and it's okay to like gaming. Now let's legitimize it as, it can be a living, right? It is a legit competition. I think that's one thing traditional sports, because I agree with Anuj. Me working in sports radio, I hear it all the time, is esports a sport? Are these guys athletes? Blah, blah, blah. And I always answer that with, the only people who care about that are the people outside of the scene. I don't think anyone in esports, I don't care if you call them an athlete or a pro gamer or whatever, right? They're professionals.
Cyber athlete.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to do. Right. But again, though, you'll see articles with that in there.
Elite e-gamer.
E-gamer.
E-gamers. And it's I think the only people who care about that are the news and other sports outlets who just don't know anything about esports or anything like that. I think it is our responsibility to educate people. But to Anuj's point, I mean, there are people out there who love sports but hate hockey or soccer or whatever, and it's that's okay. It's you don't have to love esports, but I do think it's important for people to educate that it is a legit competition. I hear it all the time of oh, what's esports? Oh, it's competitive game. Oh, well, my son plays Call of Duty. Yeah.
Yeah, your son probably also played on the soccer team at some point.
He's not playing for Team USA anytime soon.
Yeah.
No, I think
different.
definitely the education standpoint is a big plus, though, right? Like to have it in schools, and if you can convince an Asian parent, like coming from an Asian background, I feel like I can say this. If you can convince majority of Asian parents that gaming is good for their child, that's a win. If you can somehow be like, you can get into college by being really good at X number of games, that would definitely help change that aura around esports. But having it in schools is a big deal. Like, I mean, the college is giving out athletic scholarships to it. I mean, they're recognizing it. I don't know how that will ever really grow. I don't think that'll necessarily grow and take over the esports scene from a college standpoint, just because there's more money doing it the way it's done now. But it does help like legitimize it for sure to see schools, like especially big name schools, Texas A&M, being here locally. They're one of the ones that's also heavily involved in it. And you see them now, the who was it? Overwatch. We went to the OP Live in Dallas. They kind of held a collegiate event over there. I believe all of you guys were there also, and that was a lot of fun. But just to see more and more of that in colleges, I think would be huge. In high schools, we're kind of seeing it a little bit now. But yeah, I mean, that development's always going to help at least legitimize it in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, I mean, UT Dallas over here in Richardson is doing a really awesome job at incorporating that. I mean, I'm a UTD grad, so I always knew, and we never had like the best sports teams, right?
Yeah.
We had a really good women's soccer team. We had an amazing chess team. But not like great at football. We don't even have a football team.
Welcome. I'm the UTA.
Texas?
I'm the UTA life over here.
Yeah.
So I went to UTA. So same thing. We have a football field.
Yeah.
But we don't have a team. So
Wow.
But we knew, I mean, that our school was always a little nerdier and on the geekier side. And so when esports started becoming a thing, they're like, yo, let's just lean heavily into this. So esports is becoming a huge part of their athletic curriculum, and it's part of their athletic department, not like an intramural thing. It's like athletics. And that's like, I think, a big step.
yeah.
We've had guys from college and stuff on the show talking about esports programs and how they grow. And for the most part, too, obviously there's expense, but comparatively speaking, to get it started up, it's a small expense for these colleges, right? What's cheaper, getting a set of computers and some desks, or building a football field and a stadium and getting all of what goes around that involved? So I think for these smaller schools, they are seeing an opportunity to have a sports team in their curriculum where they probably never had a chance or the money to do it before. So I think it's and I think that's where you kind of talk about bridging that gap. You got to start at the younger age, because obviously we were all young, and I was very fortunate growing up. My parents were okay with me playing competitively and having, my brother did football, and that was great. And I quit football when I realized like I got sweaty and you had to like work and stuff. So I was like, no, I'm going to stay inside and play Halo. And my parents were perfectly cool with it, because they recognized that he is, you are socializing and you are taking this serious and having that competitive mindset going into it. And, as we get older, that will trickle down to the younger generations and our kids and everything. Here's the thing. You're never going to convince the old that esports is a thing, right? I'm never going to convince someone in their 60s who watches football their entire life. Like, you know what you might enjoy? Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Overwatch seems like your thing. Like, no way. Just don't waste your time on that, because it's just, they might watch it, but at the same time, don't try to waste energy convincing them like, hey, old man, this is the future, right?
So I think you have to speak their language, and their universal language is money. And so
yes.
We were recently at
the rich old man loves esports.
Absolutely. Betting, gambling, I think that's gonna be huge kind of in the next 5-10 years, especially for esports. But we were just at the Dallas Field watch party at this Irish pub. You have 3 guys at the bar. They're burly dudes, bearded, working class. And we're hooking up TVs and stuff for the Twitch streaming and doing, and they're like, what are these guys doing? Like, what is all this? So I had to explain to them who we are and what we do. And they're like, so people watch video games? And they just look really confused. But then I was like, but, we're sponsored by State Farm and, the league, obviously, State Farm and like all these big names. And they're like, wait, who's backing them? How much money's involved? What's the buy-in for a team?
Yeah.
Okay. And well, can I get your card? Like, I need to know more about this. So I think money is the way to educate the kind of older audience.
Right.
I think the generation below us is going to be fine because they're going to be raised by us.
Yeah,
obviously.
it's just going to be a normal thing.
I already have
great.
I don't even have a kid, and I already have his computer built. It's already like ready to go.
The thing I see is they're going to be smarter than us. They're going to have so much information at their fingertips, but they're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to want to be the LeBron James of esports and think that's just going to happen just by playing constantly. And I try to tell any kid that I run into that wants to be a streamer or wants to work in the industry, like, you have to start thinking about yourself as a business right now and be okay with the possibility that you may not make it. I wanted to be in the NBA. Clearly that didn't happen. I'm in esports. It's even better. But for somebody who aspires to be, AKM or OG or these guys, it's like, you might not end up being that, but you could still work around them. You could be in production. You could be in merch. You can be a graphic design artist for, an esports company. There's all these other opportunities, but you have to educate yourself and dedicate yourself to your craft. That's where all these sponsorships with all these collegiate opportunities comes into play and those kind of things.
Do you think the traditional sports games help bridge that gap? Like you've seen the new, obviously the motorsports thing. There was a story recently where one of I think he plays for G2 if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, he raced a real race car driver, and he'd only done it via computer and beat him, was able to not only keep pace, but win. And now you have that new CVR, that cycling circuit where these guys do these ultra, bike races essentially, but they're doing it on a stationary bike with a screen in front of them. And they're now at these actual marathons. They, come out there and they set them all up and they have their own large community, which is really insane.
So wait, he's doing it. He's on a bike and doing it digitally.
Yeah, so think of
so they shoot the gun and everybody takes off on their real bikes, and this dude's at the starting line.
No. So he's not competing against actual riders. He's they have their own circuit, right? So it's their own cycling circuit where it's a bunch of people on a peloton basically, and they are racing that way. And so I wonder if these types of games where they're more closely tied to IRL, I guess you could say. Yeah, they're physical games. Would you consider them more of an athlete than the guy playing Call of Duty, or is that help bridging that gap? I mean,
well, I think it's not just the physical aspect of it, but the event side of things. People don't legitimize things until you physically see a bunch of people gather to do it, because then they're like, oh, even if the Twitch numbers are 200,000 on the stream, they're like, whatever. It's online, it's digital. But when you see 10,000 people show up to an event to watch these guys on stage, click buttons, and you're not even really watching them, you're watching the screen of them playing.
Yeah.
But it's still super exciting, and the fans are cheering and going wild. That I feel makes people think a different way about.
To look at it.
It definitely does. I mean, even look at my wife, for example. She always knew I play video games, I talk about video games all the time, but it really didn't click for her that this is legit until we went to, I think, the very first Dallas Fuel watch party at Max. And then we went to the one in Arlington, right? And she sees this is people actually get excited for this, as if we went to a Cowboys game or anything like that. So even then, I think the events behind it definitely help people realize that there are people who get excited for this stuff as if it were a normal sport.
Have you ever watched the hot dog eating competition on ESPN?
Oh, yeah.
Every year. Who doesn't?
Same thing. Gathering of people, you're hyped. You're I eat hot dogs.
This is what I always try to explain to people who are why would I care about esports or, gaming or anything like that? And I'm when you break anything down on a competitive side, it's all ridiculous that we care about it more than actual life issues, whether it be politics or the planet or whatever. There's always more important things going on than sports. And that's coming from me who works at a sports station, so maybe that's bad advertising, I don't know. But look, football is a bunch of grown men throwing a leather ball around. Hockey is grown men skating around on ice chasing a piece of rubber. Right? It's all ridiculous that we can fill in stadiums with 30,000 people to watch that until you realize, no, there's the competition, there's the strategy, it's the fandom, right? Which is one thing that I think franchising can lead a positive aspect. I mean, look at Overwatch League, how just having Dallas in your name, how you instantly create fans, right? No one has to learn teams or anything like that. This is the Dallas Fuel, this is my team. So that's one thing I always try to explain to people. Look, you think this is ridiculous, but there are also people out there who think baseball is ridiculous. And yet everyone loves that, right? You can fill a stadium watching baseball. You can fill a stadium watching esports. There's really, when it comes down to it, no difference.
I think it's just the desire to see the game played at the highest level, whether
Yeah.
it's checkers or a spelling bee on ESPN. Whatever it is, you just want to see it done at the highest level. I think that's
You
kind of
think
the story at the end of the
Olympics
day.
is a good route for esports?
Ooh.
I think it's interesting to say because the way the Olympics works is it's very different than traditional like sports that you see on TV. You don't follow, very few people follow what's leading up to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
watch the Olympics.
Olympics.
And there's all this work these guys have put in before that, and you're at the Olympics, they're telling their story, and it's that pinnacle of all their skills, and there's so many different things going on. Actually, that's probably more equivalent to esports. Like, let's say a DreamHack, where you go to an event like that, and there's thousands of people there, and they're not necessarily there to watch one game. And I think that's something that's tough with esports is not everyone cares about the same game. So when you have more of these events that have all these different games being played and putting them all together in one place, I think that creates bigger fans and larger growth of fans, because then you're getting this crossover. But like the Olympics, you're seeing the best of the best of different things at one place. I think also that when it comes to competition, people like to see something that they know and understand how to do and have played a little bit of, but people also watch sports they've never played in their life, right? Like, I've never actually played a real game of football with like a full lineup, never done that. But how many people have?
Yeah.
Not that many on the grand scale of how many people watch
How many
football.
viewers are actually out there?
But how many people that watch Overwatch League have played Overwatch? Like, in the same format they're playing. A lot of people.
Yeah, I would say that's like over 95%. Would
Yeah.
be my guess. Like, I mean, almost 100 there.
So that's a huge difference, I think, that esports has. You can actually play the game those guys are playing in the same format they're playing at the same skill level, and you're not good. Like, you can't do what they're doing because you're playing
You're actually doing it.
And
Yeah.
to your point there, you have overlay too, right? Like, physically, right? Not everyone can play football, right? Or I cannot go run track, but that track star.
I mean, you
could.
Well,
You
I
choose not to.
appreciate it.
There's
You
a
guys are
get
too
on a
kind.
track
You guys are so
and
nice.
move.
You guys are so nice. But I mean, I could probably break a 1040, so I don't want to brag. But those track stars or the football athletes can go and play. I mean, look at Fortnite, right? How many athletes and everything play Fortnite on a level that I can't do it on their side. So I think it's very cool too that you have that overlap, which kind of also legitimizes esports and has that public acceptance, right? If these guys who are idols, like Drake or whatever, if you worship Drake and then all of a sudden you're sitting here making fun of Fortnite and then all of a sudden Drake tweets about Fortnite, you're like, oh, you know what? Fortnite's not that bad. I kind of like Fortnite.
Coming around to the old Fortnite train. Nifty was on a few episodes ago, and he brought up the interesting point. I've always felt like there needed to be more personalities in esports, just for the growth of it. So the marketing opportunities, like people want attractive, energetic, outgoing people to represent their brands. But he said one of the cool things about esports is you don't have to be that. You can be the most generic, vanilla, nerdy looking dude and still be a god and have like tons of followers and people like following you.
You can just say Shroud. It's okay. You could say his name.
That was not me.
You can say Shroud's name.
I'm also not associated with this anymore, so this is all on him.
No, it is true though. I mean, especially when Shroud first left Cloud9 and started doing his own brand of streaming, right? He's pretty bland as a guy, but this, godlike person playing these games, and that's what generated the viewerships for him. And obviously you can even see how he's grown and everything. I think, I do agree with Nifty that personality always helps, especially for people like us where we do podcasts and we like to talk about the drama and have people on to talk about it. It's always rough when you try to interview someone and then they have no personality and you're trying to joke around with them and they're like, we're going to,
That was fun.
yeah, it was fun. It was a good game. So I do think that it definitely helps, and that comes in time, right? It's going to help with when people start having like media coaching, right? That's one thing that professional.
Sorely needed.
Yes, that's one thing that I've told everyone. And think the first time I met Mike, I was like, okay, so now that you have a real team, like with franchising and everything, got to get media training for them, because that's one thing that a lot of people, I mean, you got to think, half these guys who join these teams are just kids. They've never once had a microphone in front of them or grew up thinking that was really going to happen. Athletes and everything, you grow up with the expectation of, I am going to be in the spotlight. I am going to have people ask me questions. So you've kind of always have that mindset of it. Plus, it starts at such a young age. You know, like look at LeBron James. He was on magazines in high school. Mm-hmm. With esports, I mean, these guys are 21, just now breaking that ceiling of like being on camera. They have no idea how to act or talk, and whether that be for better or for worse, right? Some of them are so shy that they don't say anything, and some of them are so outspoken where it's like, yeah, you can't say that, like even on stream, right? That's the other big one is like,
what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I've never had to deal with that issue.
Right. So that's another thing is like on stream or on Twitter, like your actions outside of the league have consequences, and it's just.
Which is different from traditional sports, especially some of the pro circuit. So the NFL, when they're in the locker room, they're probably saying some of this not so nice, using colorful language, those kind of things, but the camera's not on.
Yeah.
Right.
They get in front of the PR person, and it's, oh yeah, we give 110%. They have their things that they have to hit. It's usually the same thing. Oh yeah, we played great
sketch.
Defense.
It's great.
Team.
It's like literally the same thing over and over and over.
110%.
But that's part of the media training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I've seen how athletes and everything are told to speak with media, and it's pretty much like, look, give them nothing, right? And as much as it would suck for us or things like that, I do think, though, that allows for some of the more personality people to come into play, and do it in an appropriate way, right? Like, I'm not trying to be like old man serious guy here, but, if you want esports to succeed and grow, sometimes you have to give and take a little bit, and that's where the players and fans have to realize, like, okay, we have to be a little bit more corporate friendly.
Well, we want players, like any sport, to be the best representation of the people that play the game, right? Whether it's from the fan side or anybody, they should be the best of us. That's
like
kind of
XQC. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. Jokes, that was me.
Ninja, maybe.
So I mean, even Overwatch League right now is using a campaign where it's the best of us, like, and it makes sense because you want that represented in media. You want the performance there. We had Jay go out to LA prior to the stage 1 of Overwatch League this year and go and sit down with the team as well as with our PR group out there, and our PR team did some of the traditional media training, and Jay went out there to coach them on some of the social media etiquette and things like that, because social media is such a huge part of communication in any business now, but people aren't trained to use it like a professional tool. It's not Dear Diary, this is what I'm feeling today.
Right.
And it was so funny. So we're in the training, and Mr. Mickey, fan favorite Mr. Mickey, decides to throw a curveball at me. He's like, so you're telling us to like be nice and like always speak positive and thank people. What about Floyd Mayweather? And I'm like, damn it, Mickey.
He's his own brand. That doesn't count.
See, I get, that's
a little different.
I paused. I paused like, man, that's a good one. That's a good one. But then, I circled back and basically said, he spent a lifetime building that brand.
Yeah.
He wasn't Floyd Money Mayweather from the beginning. He was Pretty Boy Floyd. That wasn't working out so well, so he switched to this lavish, like, I'm going to be loud, I'm going to be brash, and he basically earned the right to do so by having a 50-0 record.
Yeah.
So I said, until you guys go, undefeated in a season. Yeah.
And he's his own brand. As much as I want our players to be individuals, they're still representing a team and an org.
Something bigger. Correct.
Yeah. You can't say something outlandish and get away with it when you're represented by any company, whether it's
it's not just
doesn't
like
matter what it
us
is. It's anyone. Big difference also, like in Overwatch, for example, though, a lot of the players are not like American-born players, right? So you're also coaching them on how the style of interviewing is going to be over here. You're coaching them with language barriers, making sure that their wording comes out, properly when they're trying to explain something. So esports media is like kind of a whole different ball game when it comes. Just people are from everywhere when it comes to esports. You don't have to be, born here and growing up playing basketball or football, but yeah.
The scene's changed too, though. I think it also kind of depends on the scene because fans have expectations. I mean, I know, like back in the day, even when it was like MLG and at this one event, to your point, events mingling. MLG used to do it where Halo, MLG, Rainbow Six, Call of Duty, they were all at the same event, and those Gears of War guys were nuts. Like, you wouldn't want to cross one of them because you knew that they didn't care. They just said whatever they wanted to.
So they were Oakland Raiders fans?
They really were. I mean, they were scary people. And I do think you can still have that brand, but still be corporate sponsor friendly. Mm-hmm. You don't have to cut any type of personality. It's just knowing the do's and don'ts. And clearly the Call of Duty scene talks a whole lot more smack than
any other scene.
Yeah, like Overwatch League is pretty friendly.
Oh yeah,
compared
definitely.
to the smack talking, and even when there is smack talk, it's kind of all tongue in cheek.
Well, the difference I think on that aspect as well too, because of franchising, Overwatch League, we're all in it together. If any team is doing good, that's good for all of us. In any previous leagues, really, or there weren't really even leagues, right? In Gears of War, or whatever, it's us versus them. Mm-hmm. We want to just beat them because the only money we're making is if we win.
Yeah.
Whereas Overwatch League as a franchise, if everybody's making money, then everybody gets boosted, right? So there's a bigger family aspect to that. We're all in this together rather than we're in this to just beat you.
So do you think we're going to have like a kumbaya session next season for COD when they go to franchising?
That one I feel like is going to be a little more interesting because it's so established already, the teams individually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many questions in the air about that. Are we going to have to create new identities for each team?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to use your existing...
But like even the smack talking standpoint, like I feel like that's not going to go away in COD.
It might enhance it though, really, because if you can tie city names to it, which I think is a key point of franchising, just like we talked earlier, just to have that instant fan base,
Mm-hmm.
but to have like the Dallas Envy, which doesn't sound too bad if you want to write that down, and then like the Houston Optic, right? Like instantly you would have that rivalry and have that almost more fun city banter as opposed to directly at the players. Because I feel like right now it's all directed at the players.
And I think that's a big difference. Is us as an org, Jay basically runs all of our actual engagement on social media, and we have, we've discussed our strategies and policies for how we interact with other teams. We do not like attacking like individual players. We don't like attacking fans. Like that's not us, right? We have an org to org relationship, and we will get spicy with the other teams as a whole.
Right.
But it's all in good fun. Like we all understand at the end of the day, we're all friends. And I think franchising in Call of Duty could help with that as well too. Because at the end of the day, it's a rivalry, it's a competition. It's not a personal vendetta. And I think that's gonna help
With most of them.
Well, we want it to be that way eventually.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's where we want that to go.
Yeah.
Where it's org versus org, not me versus you, and I really don't like you. Even talking with the Call of Duty guys across the board, even when I talked to Chino and Decimate back on our previous team, everybody will smack talk a little bit online, but like at the end of the day, they're all typically around each other. They see each other so much, and
Right.
there's so much team trading going on that like that guy could be your teammate next.
You don't want to say anything about
And
somebody's
so-
ex.
And you just kind of feel like the vibe, like it's a family vibe offline.
Yeah.
So
That'll be interesting to see how that plays out for sure. Like that'll be a fun one because that is really unique in esports now. Like if you trash talk somebody in a Counter-Strike matchup, it's like saying something at a golf match. Like everybody takes huge offense. Like, wow, I can't believe you stood up and are yelling at the other team. But COD is really the old school style, and it's like kind of like Twitch chat live when you watch that sometimes.
And we've come full circle back to the Twitch chat. Man, guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This episode has been Pog, I guess you could say. Podcast?
Pog
This
champ.
is a podcast.
Podcast
Thank you for having us. I mean, it was a huge honor when we were asked, and I was like, yeah, man, totally. You guys just started up, and high quality too. You guys.
Thanks, man.
I will give you a shout out. You had wonderful transitions between topics, like a pro.
Look at that.
Nice equipment. You guys weren't. You're not your normal startup podcast.
We've got a lot of
Well,
years and
you know.
experience with the crew and team and our respective previous histories, so that's helpful.
No, we really appreciate it. It's been an honor, and thank you guys for having us on.
Absolutely, guys. Hopefully you can come back and kick it again.
100%.
Where can the guys find you if they want to talk to you more?
Yeah. So our show Twitter is at the Center Ring. Like I said, we post episodes every Monday night, give or take. And my personal Twitter is at Pirate Mushroom. So that's if you want to just follow me.
I'm at Spiffy_VR. I'd rather you go to the show podcast, get on that one, enjoy it. Hopefully, we got some fun content coming out this year too. We really pushed going into the YouTube space a little bit more, and are starting to create some more video content versus just audio. So you can check us out there. And
Does that
get
mean
the
you have
links
to
up.
put pants on for?
But I don't stand up still. I'm still sitting. Yeah, it's still sitting. You're getting about
Right.
this right. I'm not wearing pants right now, honestly. So
I can
it's great.
Confirmed.
Don't get them too excited, please. We've got some stuff to cover on our end. We just finished CWL Fort Worth, so we've got a couple events coming up. We've got Overwatch League's the new home game event coming up soon, April 27th through 28th. Go to DallasFuel.com to get those tickets. We did just announce the lineup for all of the autograph signings that are happening. So as part of the Grandmaster upgrade package, you can choose either getting the Saturday autograph sessions with basically 4 players from every team that's going to attend, so that's 32 players, or you can opt in for the Sunday autograph session, which is going to be with all of the Dallas Fuel and all of the Houston Outlaws. If you want to do both, you just get 2 of the Grandmaster upgrades and get those situated.
Ooh, are they going to be in the same room? I didn't think about how
we got to go do that
how-
walkthrough tomorrow, and we'll figure all that
That's
out.
gonna be a hot room.
That'd be good.
Can you imagine like the 2 fan bases like that close in proximity? Just
This is what we need. This is
chair's
exactly
getting
what we need.
It'll be fun.
It's good for esports. But yeah, tickets are still available. As cheap as $35, but they're going fast. So definitely check that out.
Get them now, especially that upgrade. If you want to do that, get it now. There's not that many spots open.
Right meow.
Right, meow.
You can join us on the NB Discord. That's going to be discord.gg/NB. We have a special queue up channel where you can request future guests for the show. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. If you can, please leave us a review on iTunes or Google Play. That helps us out tremendously. And
Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube,
Oh, yeah, don't forget
go
to subscribe.
click the little subscribe button and hit the bell to turn notifications on right now.
Do it.
We're not going to continue talking or end this until you do that.
Yep. We're just going to sit here until you do it.
Waiting for you to do that right
Okay.
now.
Do it.
Done? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
That
we
means
did
they
it.
got to
I
deal
did
with
it.
us a little bit longer, so they're all probably just slammed.
I want this over.
We appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, this has been Q Up.